First thing I want to do is bring out Dan Kravickas, the president of American Group, who's sponsoring the event. Dan, can you come out here for a minute?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out. This started several years ago. Our very first teammate, when we started American Group back in 2006, very first teammate we ever hired got diagnosed with leukemia, and she underwent a transplant. They told her at the time it was successful. She went into remission and thought everything was great. And we raised a lot of money for medical bills during the first tournament we did over in Arizona. And then shortly thereafter, Jay's niece got struck. So we figured it'd be a good idea to continue to do this year after year after year. And Jay's done a phenomenal job of putting it together out here in San Diego and raising a lot of money for Rady's. So thank you, Jay. Doing a great job. Thank you all again for coming out.
All right, so I want to thank you guys again. I want to bring out Ryan Melendez. For those of you who were here last year, he spoke about his experience and hey, there's hope. And it's one of these kids who's an amazing kid. I could brag too much about you, but he's a heck of a golfer, and he's got a great story, and I want everyone to hear it.
So my name's Ryan Melendez. For those of you guys that were here for the past few years, thank you for coming, and for any of the new people. I'd like to share my story with you just to see what this money goes towards. I still am a patient at Rady Children's Hospital. Almost 3 years ago now, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia on September 10th, 2015. Before I was diagnosed, I was a senior, going into my senior year of high school. Played golf every day, was looking to go to hopefully Stanford and play golf. And then I rode horses at a national level, was a 7-time national champion horse rider, had all A's in school, top 10 in my class, and 6 days into my senior year, I was sitting out at lunch, and I just felt like kind of this chill, and it was 100 degrees outside, so I went into the nurse's office, and they said I had a low-grade temperature, so I went home that day. Leading up to this, I noticed that when I was playing golf, I had a lower back pain and just wasn't quite hitting the ball as far. And to me, I just figured that it was just, I stopped working out and stuff. And so I thought it was just something like that, but never would I have thought it was what it was. And so anyways, the day after I went home from school, my temperature raised to 102 degrees. And so I went to the doctor because I was someone who would never get sick. The doctor took a look at me, didn't do any tests, and said, "Oh, it's just a virus," and sent me home. The next day, I threw up and went back to the doctor, different doctor. They did the same thing, took a look at me and said, "Oh, it's just a virus. There's nothing wrong with you." And so at that time, I had gone, I think, 3 or 4 days without any food or anything to drink because I couldn't keep it down. And then a few days later, went back to the doctors, and I threw up so much that morning that the whites of my eyes turned red because the blood vessels popped. And this doctor took one look at me and instantly sent me in an ambulance to Rady Children's Hospital. And I was in septic shock, and that's when all of your body organs begin to shut down because I was just so sick. And the only things I remember from that day was there was 14 or 15 doctors and nurses at Rady Children's fighting to keep me alive. And then on the ambulance ride over, there was this nurse who I wouldn't say was exactly my kind of type of person. I just remember thinking, gosh, I just got to make it a little longer because this can't be the last person that I see. So thankfully I made it to Rady Children's Hospital, and they do have a lot of pretty nice looking nurses over there. So I lucked out in that department. I spent a month at Rady Children's Hospital. My first 3 days there was in the pediatric intensive care unit, where they were just trying to keep me alive so that way they could figure out what was going on with me. And that's when they did the test to find out that I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And that very same day they started chemotherapy, and I spiked 107 degree temperature. And they sent me back up to the pediatric intensive care unit. And since then, I spent a month in the oncology ward where all the other kids with cancer have, and I just remember the first few days thinking, why me? Why did I get this disease? And I'm someone who is super healthy, had a lot that I was looking forward to getting to get to do, and it's really something that you don't think about at my age. And I remember not wanting to go outside of my room because I was afraid to see the kids with no hair and see what was awaiting me. And I eventually got the courage to step outside of that room, and I realized, well, if I'm going to be stuck with this disease, I'm not going to let it hinder who I am as a person. I wasn't going to let cancer define me. So 2 months after I got out of the hospital, I decided to pick up flying and started working towards my pilot's license. I decided to keep golfing, started riding horses again, and then went back to school. Even though it wasn't a 4-year school, I started at Miracosta College, and today I'm happy to say that I've been able to got accepted to USC. I've been champion riding horses multiple times again. I'm back here playing golf, and I'm going to try and walk on to USC's team. And with the money that I saved, ironically going to community college for 2 years, I bought myself a small little plane that was built in 1946, and at the end of this month I'll have my pilot's license. So, but the biggest thing I want to share with all of you guys is no matter how difficult of a circumstances that you go through in life, whether it be an illness or just everyday life things, the way I kind of see it is life is a lot like golf. You have your ups and downs. I had my first tournament that I played in since being sick last weekend, and the first day had to deal with those nerves and shot 87, which was pretty rough for me. And then followed it up with a 73. So just like life in golf, you're going to have your good and bad days, and if you can just work through those bad days and stay positive and just keep a positive outlook on life, then you're going to have those good days too. So thank you guys all for showing up today, and